Powder Mage, Promise of Blood, Brian McClellan, Discount Bin. I'm Rick. This is Leonard.
Hello.
This is Lexi. And Daniel.
Hello.
Pointed in our voice. Hello.
Are we doing that as the intro?
100%.
So we'll try one time.
We need an actual intro also.
What? Yeah, I thought you said...
This will just be like for outtakes and...
No,
I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, the title helps
Yeah.
with that kind of intro.
Hey all, and welcome to Discount Bin, a pack of pals reading, digesting, and arguing over fantasy novels in a weekly podcast format. This week, we're starting a new trilogy, Powder Mage, starting with its first book, Promise of Blood, by Brian McClellan. Like always, we have the usual suspects. I'm Rick, with Leonard,
Hello.
Lexi,
Hi.
and Daniel.
Hello.
Well, Daniel, do you want to just start us off with our first character in this series?
Sure. I thought we would start with the Adamat storyline because it doesn't coincide with Tomas or Tennille. And then we'll do Tomas and Tennille afterwards, where that will be quite long. Let's kick it off. And I'm sorry if Adamat is not how you pronounce it, but that's what I'm going with.
As long as you say guillotine right, we're okay.
I'm not sure I say that word at all, but I would definitely say guillotine just to annoy you at this point. I'll see if I can find that.
Squeeze that in there.
Yeah. Adamat, a former police investigator turned private investigator, has been summoned to Skyline, the castle of Manhawk, the king of Adro. When he arrives, he finds the royal cabal, named Privileged, and the king's guards, named Heilman, have been slaughtered. Field Marshal Tomas, the leader of the country's armies, has taken control. Tomas summoned Adamat because when they killed the Privileged, each Privileged whispered, "You can't break Kresimer's promise." Even the dead ones whispered it. Adamat remembers there was a gang called Kresimer's Promise years ago, but they were all killed. He agrees to take the case. Adamat arrives home and sends his family out of the city to safety. A short time later, he catches 3 people trying to break into his house. One of them is a banker and a thug named Pelagi. Adamat owes Pelagi money. When he sent his family off, Pelagi thought he was making a run for it. They have some words, a couple punches are thrown, and then they leave. Adamat goes to Adapest University, where he meets with an old contact named Uskin. Uskin asks about Adamat's printing company. Adamat tells him how his printing press exploded, killing an apprentice and ruining his business. The insurance didn't pay out. Adamat asks Uskin about Kresimer's Promise, and they go to the library to do some research. All the books on the topic are either missing or the relevant sections have been burned out by a Privileged. The only reference they find states, "And they will guard Kresimer's Promise with their lives, for if it is broken, all the 9 might perish." The 9 refers to the 9 countries which make up this world. Uskin recommends checking with the public archives. 7 days later, and Adamat still hasn't figured out how to get to the public archives because it's been blocked off by barricades along with the rest of the city center. He goes to a bare-knuckle boxing match and wins some money. He talks with the winner, a man named Sue Smith, who had spent some time in the gang Kresimer's Promise before they were wiped out. Sue Smith tells him their leader was a former member of the Royal Cabal, and he named the gang that to remind them of their mortality. Break Kresimer's Promise and end the world. Adamat hires him to help get into the public archives. 5 days later, and they've had no luck. Pelagi breaks into Adamat's house again, this time with another man named Lord Vitas. They've worked out that Adamat is working for Tomas. Vitas has Pelagi killed, so he can take on the debt Adamat owes. He wants Adamat to spy on Tomas, but Adamat refuses, unwilling to betray his country to someone he doesn't know. Lord Vitas says he will return when he has leverage.
I do appreciate something that, in particular, I felt like happened during this guy's storyline than we see with the other characters, because the other characters, spoilers, are kind of in a military mindset, and we kind of just deal with what they're dealing with. But with this, we kind of see at least a glimpse into what the day-to-day life and corruption may be in this world. For example, when you were talking about how he had his press explode and the insurance didn't pay out. Well, during that point, they made a specific reference saying that, like, yeah, it was just cheaper for the insurance company to pay the the courts, pay the courts to just rule in their favor and not have. It's cheaper to do that than actually pay him out. And the fact that an ex-policeman can be basically already under the thumb of some thug, some debtor, because this guy bought the debt from somebody else before he got it.
Yep.
But then he died, and now it's just manipulation. Anyway, I just thought it was an interesting thing because I feel like I wanted this guy to be the main character, but he doesn't really feel like a main character. He just kind of feels like another storyline in here.
Yeah, I think he definitely gets less screen time than our other two main characters, or maybe it just feels that way. So speaking of the printing press, he talks about how it blew up, and anybody have any predictions on that? Because it seemed like a pretty obvious setup by criminal guy Pelagi.
Do you think it was set up by Pelagi?
I wouldn't be surprised. Like,
do you think he had the debt before that happened?
No, I don't. I think it was like part of his plan. Like, he pays off banker guy, and then he takes on the debt, or he takes on the debt first and just tells banker guy not to tell him, and then he goes and sets up. I just feel like the explosion wasn't accidental.
Sure.
And I feel like
Definitely
the most logical
accidental
thing was, the guy who is trying to get him in his pocket.
Personally, I kind of hope it was just it was just a thing that happened. They're doing experimental technology and it happened and it ruined him. It's unfortunate.
I didn't quite connect the dots like that. I thought it might have been related to the coup. Like, somebody doesn't want news spreading faster. Maybe there's like a larger scale. Like, we don't want to tell too many people about things yet. So let's blow it up.
I think they kind of suggested that the explosion happened like a year ago. Like, not even like recent. It was, it's been done.
Ago.
Yeah.
But they also
mentioned... Pretty sure the coup isn't planned in a day or two,
Oh, that said, maybe it's not the coup, but maybe it's the old king and the government trying to make mass communication like stifle it to help maintain power.
I don't have much to say about this guy. I didn't feel like we've gone deep enough in the story yet. Everything's still very intro-like. We still don't know what some of the words mean, like privileged. They described it a little bit, right? But we don't know the full extent of all their abilities, even the knacked as well. There's just so many terms that we're not used to yet.
So knacked are people that basically just have one power. Like everyone's like an actor, like they've all got one trait, and then they can see magic. They've got like a third eye where they can see magic.
Some of them have a third eye, right? I don't think it's all knacked.
They made it sound like some are stronger than others, but some are better at. But I think it was all as well. And powder mages, no one knows what it's about, and like this is kind of going in the next area. And the privileged are basically the mages of this world, and then the cabal are like the top tier mages. They all got weird like elemental powers.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about this later too because
it's a lot more.
Yeah, and they actually I felt like gave pretty good explanations about almost everything except powder mages.
Yeah, which they intentionally left bad. But like Adamant, did they specify he was? Because he seems like a knacked based on the descriptions on him.
He is a knacked, right?
Yeah, they say he is.
Did they specify? Okay, I must have missed that.
Yeah.
I listened to this thing twice, and because there's such a long time in between.
They did not say what his ability was, though.
He remembers everything.
Oh,
yeah,
is that actually an ability, or he's just...
I think that's his ability. That's why I was thinking he was a knacked and not anything else.
Okay. I couldn't tell if that was like a him thing or knacked thing.
I would also. I think we should talk about the setting. I love the private investigator. I like a good mystery. I like fantasy mystery a lot. But this setting is not doing it for me. I can't take it seriously. It just feels like it ripped out of a history book. But like trying to make it like super embellished with like corruption and magic and this mysterious like powder mages.
Can I ask if that was a preconceived notion? Because you mentioned you were worried it was going to be a Civil War thing before we even touched the story, and it's not really Civil War.
It's not. It's French Revolution. It's a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
but I can't like the talk about pistols, and it's just I haven't read any fantasy like this before, and it
Okay.
really is immersion breaking. And to top it off, like the way I'll talk more about this later, but the way that this writer writes women, and we'll talk more later. But
Just out of curiosity, did you write or did you read any of Wax and Wayne? Because I feel like
I was talking to Jim today after I finished. I'm like, I would much rather prefer Wax and Wayne to this, like, because I've been listening to those books with Jim.
yeah,
Like this
feels like emo Wax and Wayne, like or like
it
feels
like
serious.
noir, like noir.
Yeah, noir. Yeah.
Yeah. Detective.
Well, at least only from this guy's perspective. I don't feel like the military side feels like Wax and Wayne at all.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Anyway, I think the setting is not strong. I think it's interesting. I think that the politics are interesting. Corruption and churches is always interesting, but it's just not. All I hear is French Revolution.
I don't know about you guys, but I really thought the intro was really interesting to start page 1 after a coup, listening to the guy who started the coup. That's not a very frequent POV. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I really like that. Like I was grabbed, and then
Yeah.
slowly as the world is more built, I am more
talk
and more.
We'll talk about the other
Well,
characters who kind of suck, but
I do feel like they don't have enough time to build a world yet, right? Like these 10 chapters aren't that long. It feels like we don't
No.
have enough of the world to make an accurate assessment yet.
My opinion might change. I don't think it will though.
Get ready for 3 books of this.
hey, we already had this. That was my attitude towards the other book, so it's fine. It's great. I don't have this person. I can enjoy this book.
All right, so we see in this Adamat chapters, we see him read in the paper about Tennille chasing a privileged, which we'll talk about later. Leonard, did this surprise you that like the papers would be knowing that and publishing it?
I don't know if I call it surprise. I still don't have a good understanding of how their media works yet in this country, right? Like, is their media like ours? They have a certain site that they choose to report stories of, or is this like truly neutral media? I don't feel like we have a clear picture yet, so I don't know if I was surprised. It was more, I don't know how that works yet. How did they get the news that quickly, or are they reporting with a preconceived notion? Like, do they have strong opinions? Yeah. No. Yeah.
I guess I asked it because it did surprise me, which is where, the things that interest me are the questions I come up with usually. I think it surprised me because that means there was probably like a press conference or something where maybe Tomas gets in front of a bunch of people and is like, this is what's going on. This is why that building blew up, because a privileged was being hunted by Tennille, or whatever. I don't know. It just struck me as very modern, considering they are just inventing the printing press.
They didn't exactly do it quietly, and so there's probably a lot of
It
witnesses.
definitely didn't. Yeah,
It's all,
true.
and somebody might recognize him, and that's gossip because it's a known name, so they're just gonna say it. Like,
Yeah, maybe someone had an iPhone out and just took a video
Yeah.
of it. No?
it's a steampunk iPhone though. It's fine.
All right, Lexi, what leverage do you think this Lord Vitas guy is going to go after?
Oh my gosh.
These kids.
I don't know. I mean, I think the fact that we had his family exiting the city, I think indicates that they will be coming back later as not safe.
Yeah.
Go be safe so you can come back and be
Go be
not
safe.
safe.
I think that's the only thing that's like,
That's the only thing that
That
he's got a
could be.
connection to. Yeah.
yeah, at this point. All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Tomas and Tennille. This one's kind of long, so apologies.
Thanks, Daniel.
You're welcome. After Automat leaves, Tomas goes to check on his soldiers. Tomas's soldiers were able to kill the royal cabal, but there was another privilege named Rosalia hiding in the royal whorehouse. She killed 5 powder mages before escaping. Tomas decides to send his son Tennille after her, along with another privileged and an anti-magic privileged. Tomas's bodyguard died, and he takes on a new one named Olam. a quirky and lovable goof. Olam never has to sleep, which is an amazing superpower. Tomas makes his way to the church where King Manhawk has locked himself in with the Queen and the Diacel, which is a priest. Manhawk tries to shoot Tomas, but he's a powder mage. Tomas arrests all three and explains that he planned the coup because Manhawk was wasting the country's money while the commoners were suffering, and he was about to sign the Accords, which would make Adro in debt to neighboring country Kez. Kez is responsible for killing Tomas's wife. Tomas's son Tennille has been in Fatrasta the last 2 years, helping them gain independence from Kez. He has returned to Adro with a sidekick, a 14-year-old girl named Capoel. She's mute and still learning the local language, and a really good tracker. Tennille arrives in town to find his fiancée, Vlora, sleeping with another man who has hired to seduce her. He pins the man to a wall with his own sword and leaves. He finds his father arguing with Andros the Reeve, who insists on balancing the king's books. Tomas agrees and Andros leaves. Tennille gives his father a gift, a pair of pistols made by a famous gunsmith. Meanwhile, in the house of Duke Eldamintz, there is a washerwoman named Nila. The Duke's son Jacob can't sleep and is visiting her when soldiers break in and arrest the Duke's family. Nila hides Jacob and eventually escapes with him, saving him from being arrested. The next day, Tomas is preparing to execute the king and queen, along with 1,000 other royals. It will be done in front of thousands of people from the city. Tomas meets with his co-conspirators, Ricard Tumbler, who controls the workers' union, Andros the Reeve, who informs them the country is broke, Archdiocese Charlemont, high priest of the church who is also a renowned swordsman, Lady Wenceslav, a royal who owns the Wings of Adam, the most prestigious mercenary force in the world, Prime Lector, who is also the vice-chancellor of Adapest University, and the proprietor's eunuch. Tomas plans on executing everyone over the next couple of days, then let the commoners riot for 2 days before restoring peace. The group moves down to begin the executions. A group of Heilmen attempt to rescue the king, but are killed by a combination of powder mages and the angry crowd. The king tries to give a speech, but no one can hear him. The king and queen are beheaded, with a guillotine. Meanwhile, Tennille and Capoel are hunting Rosalia along with Julene, a privileged, and Gothan, a magebreaker. Julene has a personal stake in finding her for some reason. Her and Gothan nearly get killed not listening to orders as Rosalia blows up a building. Tennille shoots Rosalia and stabs her through the stomach with his bayonet. Rosalia is mildly annoyed, so she causes an explosion that takes out 2 buildings around them. Capoel and Tennille are saved by Gothan dampening the magic coming at them. Rosalia has escaped, but Capoel has her scent. 2 days later, they track her to General Westeven's house, complete with a bunch of Heilmen loyal to a now-dead king. Westeven is a well-respected tactician who is supposed to be out of town. The Heilmen try to stop Tennille, and he blows up their gunpowder, causing a large explosion. He goes to warn his father. At the House of Nobles, Tomas has summoned Vlora, a soldier, an especially powerful powder mage, and Tennille's ex-fiancée. He's assigning her somewhere when Olam, Tomas's bodyguard, lets him know that royalists have taken the city center, which has some ridiculous name, Centestershire. Tennille bursts in and tells Tomas that Westeven is in town, which means he'll make a move to strike back. They go to clear the building, but it's full of Heilmen who try to kill them. Vlora gets shot in the thigh, but will be alright, and everyone else is fine. Tomas calls on the Wings of Adam to defend the city from Westeven. Vlora asks Tennille for forgiveness, but he walks out. The Wings of Adam set up camp outside the city center in preparation for a battle. Tomas is in a nearby building when there is an earthquake. A man comes into his office. He says he's a chef. His name is Mihaly, Lord of the Golden Chefs, and the god Adam reincarnated. Tomas doesn't believe him. There's another earthquake, and Mihaly is gone. In General Westeven's camp, the washerwoman Nila is meeting with the privileged Rosalia. They want to make the child Jacob the new king. General Westeven and Tomas have a parley. Westeven brings a group of nobles and Rosalia. Tomas very stupidly brings Julene, who he knows has a personal vendetta against Rosalia. Westeven makes some vague and ominous comments about how important it is to have a king, and how there's more at stake than Tomas knows. They don't come to an agreement, and someone from the barricade starts shooting at Tomas. Julene, who very suspiciously knew something was about to be wrong before it happened, jumps in front of Tomas and puts up a shield. She throws fireballs back, one of which takes off West Stevens' arm and burns his chest. His people drag him back behind the barricades. Tomas orders the attack.
I don't know
Crush
why you have
that.
a problem with women in this. I mean, there's so many of them that do things outside of run away and get stabbed. Okay, as a villain, she's not a villain, but
Rosalia?
Rosalia's kind of got some badass moments, but yeah, so far there's like zero representation, and
I mean, Rosalia is pretty cool. Capo L is pretty fucking cool.
I wanted to see Adamant's wife.
Laura is like, she's supposed to be super powerful.
Honestly, I was most interested in one person they barely touched on, and that was
Who's that?
Adamant's wife. Adamant's wife. They said that they were partners and that she was like also like a private eye kind of thing. I thought she was gonna come in and do shit, not just run away with the kids.
I mean, somebody's
Right.
gotta.
And sorry, and like, well, the way he was like describing his wife, like, oh, she's so old, and like, of course, I don't look good either. But it's just like,
The old
And then when
lady.
she-
It's his old lady.
Yeah.
right. It's just so far, like, it was really this point that I noticed that this author has really taken time to like talk about the physical characteristics of the women, but not for the men, not in the same like.
To be fair, I feel like all the
Like-
men are
Really?
just grizzled war vets, and there's just
Yeah.
nothing to describe. They're
Like,
all
you
the
can
same
talk about their
person.
burly muscles and like the sweat dripping down.
They did.
I felt like he
thought they
went
did.
into a
That's
lot
all
of
I
detail
can
about the
picture.
men, though. I
Sorry,
felt
what was that,
like
Leonard?
he did go into a lot of detail about the men too. Like when they first introduced the characters, he describes like how they walk up and how they looked, and there's quite a bit of detail. I think I don't know. Maybe I didn't read that much into it, but I thought the way he described his wife was more a way to give us an idea of who she is, so that's easier to picture her rather than
It's
the writer trying to set her up that way.
it's just the way that he's been describing the men has been more also about their personalities and like the way that they like are, whereas the women it's just been their like physical appearance and of their actions, of course, but it's a little bit, and it could be too that this is like our main characters versus like our just like coming in for a chapter, but it just feels very like two-dimensional.
Not gonna argue against that.
I don't know if they feel two-dimensional. I will definitely say I 100% noticed the descriptions, and he keeps mentioning like this woman was old. She was probably good-looking before. Like,
Yeah.
I was like
Uh,
old people are just hideous. Like,
I know.
especially when it's like your wife. You bore
Yeah.
you 9 children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they did hint at her being a cool character though. They did like
Right.
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
and so I
And
hope they bring that back. Maybe they'll bring that
I
back.
completely missed that.
He described one of the men as like having a belly that's too big for his own good or something like that too. I
So
didn't,
we're making fun of fat people and women.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
I agree.
And Capuel, like, so you have this young girl who's also being like sexualized, is also kind of now like as a mom, it's weird. It didn't really bother me before, but like it really bothers me now. But also like she's also super two-dimensional. She's supposed to be like this badass tracker. Like she's like amazing at what she does and like she's so like cool-headed, but then she also like roars like an animal and like flinches at the big buildings. Like
Because she's supposed to
I didn't
be,
get
I know she's a
But
tribal,
she-
but
Did she roar at anything?
yeah, she
I don't remember the roaring either, but
She
I don't- I-
growled like a dog.
I believe it. I remember her just being like really pissy that someone was trying to tell her what to do. It's like I do this every day, dude.
Well, I mean, yeah,
I
and,
just-
like
Yeah,
making her
but
mute.
she was
too.
just in awe of the buildings. Like, I don't think there was anything wrong with that. Like,
Well,
she's never been in a big city.
Right, and like I don't have very many other authors to compare it to, but like I never felt this way with Brandon Sanderson. I never felt this way with George Martin. Like and like they've even like did like sex scenes and like even with like I don't know.
I'm waiting for the comparison, Daniel. Are you gonna do it? You read enough of it, of Robert Jordan's portrayal of women, and all basically being the
And
same character.
And Wheel of Time is famously misogynistic that way.
I don't know if I would call it misogynistic. It's just he's just shitty at writing women and wrote them all the same way. Like they're all strong women in there, but they're all the same strong woman.
Yes. Okay.
And they're all assholes.
They're all assholes. Yeah.
They're literally the worst characters I've ever read.
Oh my god. I mean, fair, but the women
I would
were not
rather-
great. There are some good characters in
Yeah.
that book, but there's some good characters in this book. I can only name 2 good characters in this book so far, but I like Olam and I like Adamat.
All right,
Everybody
I
else-
got questions.
Okay, go for it. Sorry.
All right, Tomas plans this coup with 6 people. All of them, they're introduced as, these greedy rich people who don't really care about the common people. Rick, you think it's possible to throw a coup like this or like do something on this scale without them, or were they necessary?
Oh, I think they're necessary, and I think he's gonna fuck them over eventually.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think that.
I
I,
mean-
think that's
I think
the
he
whole
would
point.
need a lot of power
No, he just
still.
he's getting that power right now.
Yeah.
He's being the face of the coup. They're putting. He's not. He doesn't want it. I don't want this. But they're like. He's supposed to be saying the speech. He's like, no. This is all for the people. He's trying to put himself in this position to where he's gonna have the backing of the people. And now half of his competition just got murked, and so it's just gonna be easy. It's literally still a coup. The coup is just gonna continue a couple extra people longer.
Okay.
I mean, he needs it backing of the church probably. We'll see. Unless he's gonna turn out to be some corrupt asshole. But I feel like this book is making him and his son to be, or these 2 are the main characters of the book. Period. And Adamat's cool, but like there to fill in some of the void for our story, to be the thing to facilitate our story, and fill out
Right,
the
to give
background.
like a POV of somebody who's like a little more of the common man.
Yeah, the common man that never forgets anything and was an old cop.
Yeah, exactly. More of a on the streets view instead of a running a country view.
Yeah.
So the king, before he gets beheaded on the guillotine, he has this
There's no
speech
stupid
written.
channel in here.
Before he's sent to the guillotine, he had a like speech written out, and it's on a piece of paper. Lexi, you think the king knew he was supposed to stay in power because of Casimir's promise?
I do. It's part of my prediction for this book.
Do you want to go with the whole thing now, or wait till
I'll wait till the end
Okay.
during the allotted prediction time.
because I have a prediction about this too, and I was going to go with it now. But
Oh,
I don't.
go
What
for it.
if it's yours?
No, we have the same prediction. That's okay.
All right.
Go for it. I'm curious.
My prediction was the speech was going to be really important, and somebody saved that piece of paper that his speech is written on, and it's going to come up later.
Ooh, I feel like that's a baby step of what my big prediction is.
Okay.
I think the promise of Kresimir, or however you say it, is like this most important binding thing of like natural law and order in this entire world. And all these main characters are going to have to come together. They're going to find out through different things that they actually need to like uphold it in the way that the king was upholding it. And then they're just going to reinstate themselves basically as what the king was doing. Like, I think it has something to do with aligning with this other foreign nation as well. I forgot the name of the other nation.
Kez?
The one that, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I feel like this book's going to get a little tropey with whatever's going to happen at the end here with that. So, along the same lines, though. It's like, oh, this king's been holding back this great evil this whole time,
hmm
and now you've killed him, and now we're all screwed. Like, maybe
And
that's
now
pretty-
you have to become the evil that you hate to save
Exactly.
everyone.
that happens a fair amount.
You have to keep pushing that button so the nuke doesn't go off.
Exactly. That'd
I
be
didn't even think about it that way, but I like that theory.
Leonard, Tomas and Flora meet for the first time since discovering her affair. What did you think of their interaction?
There's not much to think about, right? Like they are no longer fiancés, right?
Tomas and Flora, not Tennille.
Oh, Tomas. Didn't Tomas adopt Valora? Right? And
think
he feels
officially,
like
but he raised her. Yeah.
he feels like he kind of forced the relationship between Valora and his son, right? And it did sound to me at some point that he felt a little bit guilty about that. But other than that, it seems like he respects her abilities. I didn't think too much into the relationship between the both of them. Did I miss something?
I just thought it was a nice representation of family, right? It was kind of like the daughter who's ashamed, and like she sits in the office, calls him sir, and he's like the father who's angry and disappointed, and like trying to hold his anger in check. And I don't know, it was very much like family, but you know, people in families fuck up, and he's not gonna like kill her over it or anything. He's just angry and disappointed. All right, Lexi, what did you think of Tomas and Tennille's relationship?
I feel like it's pretty typical fantasy, strained father-son type stuff. And nothing really stood out to me very much. It seems like a copy and paste from other fantasy books.
I'm gonna stop asking Lexi questions. I'm just kidding.
It's fine. I hope that there is good character development. I wouldn't be surprised if like a final act of love for his son is like sacrificing himself to save him and gives him the keys to the kingdom.
I feel like it's a lot of our interactions.
That's cliche, right?
It's super cliche.
Yeah, that's totally how it happens in every book between father and son. You know, like
that's what she said.
I think that's even more copy paste than your initial perception.
That's what Lexi's point was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly, that reaction, like at least their initial, like when he brings the guns and being like, "Look at these cool toys I got," and seeing Tomas kind of get excited, that was kind of cute. Being like, and then you realize it's like, oh, and then I'm how do I interact with another man again? And my son especially, like it feels like that weird toxic masculinity written into a book, like verbatim, like not really toxic, sorry, but like I don't know how to appreciate another male.
And like this is so clearly like early France. You got your guillotine and like everything. Like, and I feel like Frenchmen are pretty affectionate. But anyway.
Wait, but you were complaining it's too much like the French Revolution, and now it's not enough?
And now it's not enough. God damn it.
Wow, Lexi, make up your mind.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not a negative to me. It's not a positive. I do hope for some more development between the two, and maybe like a worsening and then a bettering.
Here's my prediction. There's going to be a heavy falling out, and they're going to use those spiffy dueling guns against each other.
Oh. That would evoke some emotion in me.
And then one of them just wouldn't fire. And then it's the same.
Yeah.
Exactly. Fire in the air. The other one fires forward. The son fired forward, really angry, bloodlusted.
I feel like two powder mages shooting each other isn't the greatest plan, but...
Yeah, the guy who shot up actually aimed it back down.
Yeah.
All right. We get Vlora. She asks Tennille for forgiveness. Rick, you think this is too soon?
I don't think so, no.
Isn't it literally like...
Can I ask a clarifying question? So this literally is the first time that they're speaking? Because I assume that there were words exchanged before.
I think this is the first time. From what we know, he got home, found her in bed, beat the guy up or whatever, asked him questions, and then left.
Okay.
So I think this is the first time they're seeing each other.
And you think, like, is it? I don't think it's weird at all. I mean, I think this is exactly what you would do in that situation if you were trying to smooth things over, kind of, or just not even smooth things over, keep things civil. But sorry, I don't have a really fun answer for that one.
No, that's okay.
Nope, totally cool.
Lexi, what do you think about the conversation between Neela, the washwoman, and Rosalia, the privileged?
I liked it.
That's it. It's kind of like my answer.
Again, it was still like, it was very clearly not written by a woman, and that's okay. I wish I should have taken notes, but there's just like some things that happen in the dialogue that are just like, what? I do like the washwoman. I don't remember her name.
Neela.
Neela. I do like Neela a lot, and I This is one of my favorite parts of the book.
Gotcha. I thought it was interesting that I feel like you got some backstory on Rosalia. Sounds like she's lived many lives, and
Oh yeah, that was really cool.
yeah. Leonard, you think Julene, the privilege that's like kind of out of control, is responsible for the attack on Tomas during the parlay?
So I know in your summary you made it sound like she knew it was coming. I didn't quite read it like that. I just got the impression that she was probably like just really good at what she does, and she had a feeling that it was going to happen. I don't know whose side she's on yet, obviously, because it seems like she knows who's the other privilege that she was fighting. I forgot her name.
Rosalia?
Yeah. So it seems like she has like some sort of personal vendetta with her. Don't know what the reason is yet, but I'm gonna say I don't think she's responsible for the attack, but maybe she had a feeling because she knows who Rosalia is and that was gonna happen anyway. I feel like she knows of a third party involved in this whole thing.
So what happened was she said something is wrong, and then she stepped in front of Tomas, and then they fired.
Yeah.
And her shield was up. So it was like early enough where I was skeptical, and she insisted on being there, and it really didn't seem like West Even's style, right? Like from everything we've learned about him, he would not break a parlay like that under truce.
But didn't they say something about Rosalia earlier too, that she wasn't like one of the listed privileges or something? That she was kind of a mystery to the group. So maybe Julene had an idea that Rosalia works for a third party that was trying to stir all this up. At least that's how I understood it. I felt like the bigger mystery is who Rosalia is, more than what Julene knows right now.
Yeah. I just felt like Julene seems way more willing to respect a parlay. Rosalia seems way more willing to like respect General West Even's wishes, I guess, for now. And if she wanted to kill Tomas, she probably wouldn't have used some sniper rifle. She would have just killed him because she was standing 3 feet in front of him. And she's the greatest magician in this book. But we'll find out, I bet. All right, Rick. I was kind of worried that this book was going to be really similar to Brandon Sanderson because I think Brian McClellan studied under him or went to school with him. I know they went to the same college. I think he took Sanderson's class. Do you find it's similar to Brandon Sanderson?
I feel like I feel like it's similar to Brandon Sanderson if he didn't have an army of proofreaders and for other perspectives. If he didn't go and actually ask people about their experiences with this stuff, and he just wrote, and we saw a first draft, that's kind of what this feels like. Like right after, like again, bringing up Robert Jordan again, I feel like it's in that line, just like unrefined and no feedback. I do actually echo the poor women writing in this, and a lot of one-dimensional characters, and the couple of characters I do enjoy are they're not throwaway characters, they're mostly side characters. So the biggest thing I'm interested in this entire world right now isn't the story at all. Like, it was a cool thing. I wanted to know more about the magic and the actual, like, how the powder magic works and all this kind of stuff. Like, that's what's drawing me for anything with this book. The actual coup and stuff itself, it's like, yeah, okay, cool. The cool intro, way to come in here. I don't give a shit about Kevin's promise, you know.
Is that what we're gonna call it?
Classic Kevin.
I'm interested in the variety of like the necked powers.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly what a lot of people like, what draws people to like both Robert's world and in particular Sanderson's worlds are the mechanics of the abilities, not always necessarily the writing or the story. But I could be wrong. That could just be me.
Olem reminds me of Friendly.
Yeah, dude, he's like that cheeky badass. Oh, I'm smoking because I don't give a shit, and I'll tell you what I think. Like, that's, I mean, that's not friendly at all, but that's still the like
the vibe.
Yeah, that's the vibe, and that's always kind of endearing. That's always fun to have that guy in there, just to be like, I'm gonna be an asshole. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. All right. We see this is a question for everyone. So speaking of the Nact, it means you get 1 power, and you see Adamat. He's got his perfect recall. Olum doesn't have to sleep. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
I can only pick up semis, but I can never put him down. It's only 1 power, so they're just stuck in the air forever.
Like, do you want us to play by the rules of like the Nact? Because I feel like we don't have the full picture yet. It all seems like a passive ability that they have, you know.
Mhm.
Like,
Sure.
are you asking if
Oh.
we would like a superpower? We pick
got mine.
anything we want, or it has to be along the same confines of like what the Nact have?
Let's
How many
go
Nacts?
along the confines of what you just laid out, because I hadn't even thought of that.
We only have the
That's
2
interesting.
Nacts so far, right?
Yeah.
So both of them are cognitive abilities, essentially, or
Yep.
chemical abilities in the
Aw.
brain. Not saying that it's all of it, but like everything seems to be tied to perception in this one way or another. As far as that, like they've got the third eye, they got never forgetting and never sleeping. So some perception-ish abilities.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not needing to sleep sounds pretty awesome. to
Yeah,
me.
it does. I think I'd go, some sort of super intelligence.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to go that far with that idea because just looking at the 2 Nact powers we have right now, it seems like there is a really strict limitation to how powerful this is. So
They
I actually
kind-
like that what they have is like good, right? But doesn't seem like completely overpowered. And it seems to be like some brain chemistry thing, like Rick suggested. So even if I say I wanted super intelligence, I don't know if that's within the confines of like the Nact powers. That's why it's so hard to answer this.
They inferred that healing was a really rare magic, but I feel like they inferred that you could also be a healing Nact. Like that could be your only power.
I don't remember that.
I can't think of the exact line. I just vaguely remember thinking, oh, that would be like what other Nacts, something along the same lines of that. If that's the
Yeah.
case, and it's all like internal powers, but yeah,
This was a pretty random question, so if you guys don't have anything, that's cool.
teleportation.
I was gonna say be able to eat whatever I want, like
You
poison.
did that tonight.
I did do that tonight, but I wouldn't have to worry about it if I had the snack
Oh,
ability.
I'm going to change mine. I want to be drunk all the time.
Daniel, you have that
but
superpower.
but just in the brain, like I'm not actually drunk, destroying my liver, and
Wow.
maybe tipsy, and I can just drink more if I want to get.
You could just be like, I just want to be kind of happy a little bit all the time. That would have been good too.
Yeah.
I've already got that one. Thanks though. All
Can I
right.
be lucky all the
I want to
time?
make everybody else sad whenever I want.
What the fuck?
Not mad. I said sad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
that
is
made her
worse than
mad.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. Moving on. So I thought we got some pretty good insight into how magic works in the world. So the privileged attach each finger to an element: fire, earth, water, air, and ether, which is the sky. They use their dominant hand to grab the elements from what's called the else and direct it with their offhand. There's also the Nact, the Powder Mages. Powder Mages can cast a spark to ignite gunpowder or prevent it from igniting. So it's like fire and not fire, kind of.
They can gobble it.
Oh yeah. What do you
You're
think of
gonna
the
talk-
magic system?
You're not going to talk about the gobbling of it to get like super stats?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
think
you can snort it like cocaine and just get really strong.
Yeah, that's kind of neat. And they suggested that
That's
the mages are allergic to it.
Oh, did
Yeah.
they?
Yeah, they said that that part of they're like, well, we kind of think like why he's like, well, why do the mages kind of hate the powder mages? They're like, well, because they're kind of like they think it's kind of because they're allergic to it. And they can't explain where the power is coming from because it's not from the else. Which Christopher's Promise has something to do with whatever the gunpowder power is, I think. I don't know. The power I want to make one more comment towards how they're describing it before we go into the actual powers themselves. I thought it was really neat where they're like, well, actually, fire is just combustion and not actually an element. And they're like, well, this is written in the old times. I just really like the actually in the middle of that. That's all.
Yeah. Also, one of them is ether, which is the sky, and that's like the same as air. Does that mean they can like call lightning bolts down or like make it rain? Like, what does that even mean to control the sky?
How you heard?
Well,
I didn't get to read it, so I was thinking like ether, like spiritual energy, not
Yeah.
lightning energy.
I think phantasmal.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's how I took it. Not
gotcha.
air.
What does that mean then?
It's a
Ghost
spiritual.
goo.
Yeah, ghost goo.
I
It's a
mean-
spiritual thing. It's like
Gotcha.
it's
don't you
probably
like getting
something
ghost
that's
gooed
not
all over. Like a
probably
ghost.
something that's not really figured out yet too, right? Like when that comment on the fire thing, I thought that was interesting because it showed that they recognize that they don't know everything about all the magic yet, and ether might be one of those unexplained ones, you know. And
Or
I don't know,
blindly
I like that little
accepted. I feel like that's the
Yeah.
faith blindly accepted. It exists because it exists. We don't really know how
So-
to explain fire, but it works.
It feels like pretty balanced, right? I don't want to say balanced, like it's kind of like a gaming term, but it's, I don't know, there are some rules to their powers. You know, it's not something you can just weave out of thin air. It seems like they have to perform certain actions to do what they can do. But
Is
this makes me
that like-
wonder, if they lose one of their arms, does that mean they just never cast magic again?
I think
think
that's
so.
I think that's the implication, and I think that's a really cool like Jedi reference, right? Like, oh, Jedi can use Force with other hands, but like just one of the things we're going to see is them chopping hands off or something to stop them from being useful.
You're banished from using your water power, so to cut
Yeah.
your water
Yep.
finger off.
That'd be kind of neat.
Yeah. I'm very interested to see how, like, these are three pretty different, like, types of magic, I guess. And it's going to be interesting to see if he can write them all into some kind of logical sense. Why the magic is this way.
And this is all the Sanderson influence right here, right? Like, this is like, we're going to make a cool magic system and try to write something around it.
I do really like the the opposite of the privileged, where the gloves change colors, like nullify the privileged.
Oh yeah,
What are they
that's
called?
a fourth one.
Give me 1 second.
The anti-magic privilege.
Yeah, the anti-magic people. I think they did
Yeah.
Gotham.
Anti-mages.
Mage breaker.
Mage breaker, yeah. So those, I hope we get more mage breakers because that.
So they're just
think
like
that's
different
so cool.
classes.
And
They're
I
all
like the
different classes.
I like
I
how
like
the
the
Mage
gloves.
Breaker's story though. He's like, why do it's like, does that mean you have to get rid of it forever? He's like, yeah. It's like, well, why would you do that? It's like, well, I wasn't the best, so I said fuck them, and I'm gonna be their worst nightmare. That was like such a dumb, great, petulant answer. I don't know. I kind of like him.
I did like that. That was something that I could relate to.
If I can't be the best, neither can you. And then you find out his range is like 4 feet, and you're like,
I know.
And it doesn't even work against Rosalia. Is that who got past?
Yeah. Yep.
Rosalia's just
I wonder-
real.
So are they mage breakers for powder mages too? Is what I wonder.
Well, I don't know because like the powder mages are largely using bullets, and so
Yeah.
like I feel like everyone's weakness is bullets, besides for Rosalia currently.
Apparently.
Oh yeah, no, actually they did have the other weakness of not being able to see their target. Really, really hampers the ability to. What was that? What was that movie where they could curve their bullets?
Oh wait,
Salt?
Wanted.
Wanted.
Yeah. Oh wait, didn't we hear that Tynell has that power too? The power to see like great distances, which is why he's able to shoot like really long range. Does that mean he's a net?
I think it's because he's doing drugs.
The powder mages have that power when they snort that shit.
Only when I thought it was exclusive to him, but okay.
He might be better at it. There might be different skill levels of it, but I think they referred to like snorting the powder as like enhancing all of their senses.
Yeah.
Which again, if you're indoors, not really useful.
So that's all the specific questions I had. What are your overall feelings 10 chapters into book 1 of this new series?
I feel like the first book of the Broken Arrow trilogy is better so far.
Okay.
As far as everything we've read. Too early to really tell otherwise, but I'm kind of on the same. Not to be negative with Lexi over there, but I kind of agree. It's like it's not really thrilling me so far. The biggest, most there's a couple characters who are cool, and the magic's interesting enough to keep reading for.
Lexi, I assume you pretty much agree with that.
I do. I want to bring the actual like excerpts from the book so that it can be like we can objectively look at it together. But there's just a couple of things that just don't sit right, and it's not so much as a just like I don't think there's any malice in it. I don't think it's intentional, but the way it comes across seems careless and is easily interpreted as such. Again, and that lack of proofreading, there's not a team of 25 people writing this book. I do like the magic. The magic is the most redeeming part for me. I really dislike the setting, and that is just a personal thing. But
Leonard?
that's where I'm sitting.
Feels a little early to pass judgment. I do feel like we've read less than we did with the first episode we did for like the Broken Earth, right? There's just not enough to work on. I liked the premise of it, like when they introduced the Broken Promise thing, right? I thought it gave me that feeling I had when I read the Robert Langdon books. What are they called again? The Angels and Demons, Da Vinci Code, Dan Brown's books. It gave me that feeling of mystery. That's like this big mystery that this adamant guy is going to start chasing down. And I think what that book did well was that it kept the mystery at the back of your mind all the time, and you uncover little pieces, right? I didn't feel like this book advanced a lot on that point. Like when I first heard about the Broken Promise, no, that's cool. But then they seem to have stopped exploring it. Like it kind of fell flat. And it went to this whole. It felt like an action flick at times. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I'm gonna give it at least another 10 chapters before I would say how I feel about it. But so far, yeah, not as engrossed in it as I did with the Broken Earth.
Okay. I'm enjoying it so far. I don't have any like major complaints. It is definitely early in the series. I think enough of the characters are interesting. They are definitely all a little one-dimensional right now, but it's hard to flesh out 14 characters in the first 10 chapters of book 1. So I'm hoping we get a bunch of character growth as we go. Yeah, and I do like the magic system and like just how many different ways there are to have magic and how they're all like they appear in different ways, I guess.
It's an MMO with different classes,
Basically, yeah.
I mean, it's like, did anyone read My Hero Academia? Everyone's got quirks.
Not yet.
See, everyone's got quirks or straight up OP mages that have all the powers.
All right, that's all I've got for the book. Oh, go ahead.
Did anybody like Tomas or Taniel?
Taniel.
It's they pronounce it Taniel in
Yeah.
the audiobook, but I also am not going to go by that because they say guillotine instead of guillotine. So Taniel it is.
It's hard to pass judgment on Tomas yet, right? Like he seems very driven, very determined, but we don't know enough about the world to pass judgment on him yet, right? Like all we have is his perspective. We don't have anyone else's perspective, and the book is framing him like he's on the justice side of things.
I mean, he's.
I'm indifferent about him. I definitely feel like I need to know more.
I feel like
him.
He's the only person in this book outside of like the gangsters that were fucking with our main character or my main character Admit. He's the only character in this book who actively did subterfuge. Besides, well, in his team, right? He's the only but he led it, so I'm gonna say it's him. He's the only person who backstabbed somebody so far. So he's the only person who really has kind of been a giant dick so far.
Yeah. You're talking about backstabbing the king, I assume?
Yeah. Yeah. And granted, the king sounds like he's been kind of like, not a good king, but just
pretty shit king.
Well, yeah. I hope it really is like these main characters that we have, I hope that they are actually starting off evil, not unbeknownst that the actions that they're doing are actually causing more issues than what
Yeah.
they're solving.
It looks like that's the road they're going.
Yeah.
Breaking Kresimer's promise. All right. So that's all I had for the book. We're starting a new segment. It's called Random Question of the Day. It's really random question of the episode. This is not going to pertain to anything related to the book. It's going to be just whatever I think up or whatever whoever thinks up before the episode. So we're going to start with Leonard, but you're all going to have to answer. On a dating app, do you match with somebody who displays their astrological sign?
Ha!
I don't think that matters to me, but both, I guess.
So
I
you
mean,
would.
it's the rest of the profile that matters to me. I don't care what the astrological sign is.
But the point is, they might care, because otherwise it probably wouldn't be there, right?
I mean, I don't care if they care because they just can choose not to match, right? Right? If they don't care, then yeah, we match. But
I think the better question here is, do you think you could date someone who believes in astrology? Actively participates in astrology.
I'm trying to keep this more
I-
petty than that, but
I know. I mean, that's what it boils down to with that question, right?
pretty much.
I mean, it at the end of the day, a match happens when both people agree, right? Like both people have to match, and if it's a problem to one person but not the other, the match is not going to happen
Right.
anyway. So it takes two people who have no problems with it to match. So by your logic, would I match with someone who has the same astrological sign or maybe different or specific ones? I don't care. So as long as that person doesn't care.
you're missing the
so
question.
this is
Yeah.
something else. So people will like, are you a Libra? Are you a Gemini? And
Yeah.
that will determine like, so it's not like information on when they're born. It is like a belief. It is a way
Right.
of life. So would you want to match with somebody?
Would you swipe right on that person? Not whether would you guys match together. If someone's like, I'm totally a Virgo, would that be attractive to you? I'm asking because I'm a Virgo and I'm wondering.
I think the sign is like worthless to me. It's not. It wouldn't affect my decision on swiping right or left.
No, it would. Well, not
No.
their sign specifically, but the fact that they're using that as a judgment, as the fact that they're using that as a barometer. Like, would you care if your potential significant other believed in Batman as a real person
Or
That's prob-
Godzilla.
or Godzilla? Like, would
I'm
that
so
matter?
confused. Like, how would I know that the other person cares about the
Because
the sign?
Because they have it on
Because
their
they
profile.
posted, they posted it. They're saying I'm a Virgo to let you know that that's something they like and that's something that they do. It's
Right.
like saying I
And
like
are they
take-
telling me they don't like my sign?
no.
No, nothing about your sign. They're not talking to you at all. It's just like, would you want to go on a date with a person who has Gemini prominently in their bio?
If
Meaning-
the rest of the profile matters, yeah.
Meaning
Like,
they
so-
believe it. They believe their personality is defined by the date they were born.
That.
Does that sound
So you're
attractive?
saying that their
Wait.
profile has nothing else but that?
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But that's
Well, it
about
doesn't
it.
matter.
It can have a bunch of other stuff too.
Yeah. The other stuff definitely matters more.
Like,
Leonard,
okay.
have
So
you
you-
met somebody who really believes in astrology?
I'm guessing not.
actually, no.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
feel like-
personality
Yeah.
type. It's
Definitely not.
literally for some people it is a lifestyle. Like
Yep.
I mean, like the way I see it is this, right? It's like a dating profile it's just a bunch of checkboxes. Like you read the entire profile, and if there are enough number of checkboxes, you want to match with that person, and that
But if their hobby is kicking
astrology thing
puppies,
is
I'm
just
probably
one
gonna
of the
swipe left.
checkboxes.
You
You
know,
know?
I'm not going to try to convince Leonard otherwise.
Nope.
If he's not going to let that interfere with his wanting to match, then
I'm really
Good.
excited
You're-
for
you're
this
a bigger
learning
person than I am.
experience.
So that's a no from Lexi for sure.
no, I just want to say that, and this, it may be a little bit sexist, but men who are really into astrology are a whole different type versus like women who are into astrology. Like it's a little bit more mainstream, but when you find a man, like they're really into it.
They're keepers.
Astrology is very like
Depending on the audience.
it's very advertised to women compared to men.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so you do have to be able to determine whether it is ironically thrown on there, because there's an entire hipster class of like, I'm totally a Virgo. It doesn't really mean anything besides for look at me, I'm so witty. Like,
Yeah,
and that's its own.
Which is another reason to
Oh!
not match with them.
Oh, what if somebody like starts your conversation, like you guys matched, they had like Virgo on their profile, and the first thing they send you is, so what's your sign?
Oh, I'm out.
I mean,
The reason this question came up was I was talking with a woman and she mentioned twice in like 2 days, like 2 or 3 times, her sign. And I was like, cool, I'm not interested anymore. And now I just don't match with anyone who has their sign in their profile because
I've literally never met anyone who actually mentioned.
You will someday.
And no hate against people who are into that. That's fine. I just don't want to spend my life with a person who's like that, because that's not my
Jim's secretly
beliefs.
like got an astrological corner, like a shrine to the stars. Like,
Ugh.
it would be really funny if 20 years from now or 30 years from now, they're like, there's a bunch of science just proving astrology was right all along. God, I hope that happens. Just so we all look like idiots. All right, that's all we got. Thank you everyone for listening and or watching. You can find us on YouTube. We're on all your major podcast apps. We're going to set up a Discord one of these days. It might be out by the time you watch this or listen to this, and we'll talk to you all later. Bye.
Bye. Leonard, do you know what time you were born?
I actually do. Why?
Yeah.
Find out what your sign is.
What year and what time were you born?
You mean like my exact birth time?
Yes.
August 5:11 p.m.
you're a Virgo. I'm just kidding. I think you're a Leo. I think.
Well,
yeah.
Oh,
I mean, does
I
time
hope you're
zone
a
matter?
Leo.
Does time zone matter? I
Okay,
am a Leo.
yeah. Okay, so you are a Leo. According to your sign, according to your birth chart, you're very much an extrovert. You are self-expressive. You like to follow your heart and not your brain. You have a positive outlook about what can be achieved. You exude energy around everyone you meet.
Dude, this is like nailing him.
Yeah, crushing it.
Fucking.
So this is.
Who is that guy?
Do you want your daily horoscope for today?
What the hell does that mean?
Well, every day your horoscope
It's
tells
a
you how your day is gonna be.
Yeah, it's a prediction for how your day went.
Oh, okay. Well,
Okay.
let's see how accurate it is.
This Wednesday, you should prepare for the worst, but hope for the best, as there might be certain obstacles put in your way, and you will have to work your way around them. It's a good time to start a personal endeavor and to be perseverant about it, but you should refrain from involving other people in your endeavors.
Okay.
Do you have a lot of obstacles today?
No. I mean, so I was in a company meeting today. 2 people on our team got fired.
Oh my
I don't
god!
know. I don't know if that's an obstacle
Oh my
or not.
That
But-
sounds like a.
They got fired during a meeting?
No, it was a meeting for the rest of everyone. It's like
Okay.
to talk about who's no longer with us.
Yeah.
Oh, they died?
I mean, do you consider it an obstacle? I don't think so. I mean, not an obstacle to me. The only obstacle I had today was like I needed 80 pulls to get Kafka, but that's it.
I haven't touched that game in so long already.
One day she'll come home.
Kafka's banner started today. It took me 80 to get her.
It seems not that bad actually. Seems kind of.
I actually beat the 50-50, so it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.